My mom admitted she only gave birth to me so I could donate blood and bone marrow to my sick sister. When I asked to stop after my seventh painful procedure, she said, "You don't get to say no. That's why we had you." So I left and took every donor record with me. My arms were bruised in the exact same pattern every time. Upper bicep, 2 inches below the elbow. Faint purple crescent where the IV sat too long. I used to call them my love marks, like they meant something beautiful, like I was saving someone. My name is Allie. I'm 17. I was born to save a life, not in the inspirational hero on the news kind of way, literally born to be harvested. My sister Emma is 19. She has a rare blood disorder, something I learned to pronounce before I learned multiplication. I was 6 the first time I donated to her. Platelets, I think. They told me I was brave, that I was the reason Emma got to go home. There were stickers and apple juice and a nurse with a voice like cartoons. I smiled in all the pictures. By age 10, I'd done it 3 more times. By 12, I knew how to lie still for bone marrow aspirates, gritting my teeth while my mom held my hand and told me I was doing my duty as a sister. I'd miss school, throw up from the meds, cry in the middle of the night because my hips felt like they were splitting open. But I never said no. I wasn't allowed to say no. Emma was the star. Beautiful, sickly in a poetic kind of way. Every school play she was too fragile to finish, I sat in the wings and clapped loudest. Every hospitalization, I brought her favorite hoodie. Every magazine article my mom clipped about miracle siblings, I nodded and pretended the headline, "Born to Save," didn't make me feel like a product. I didn't know how much of myself was mine. It all unraveled 2 months ago. Procedure 7, a more aggressive marrow pull. I'd already missed 2 track meets and my grades were slipping. I was tired. Just done. So I told my mom I wanted to take a break. I said I didn't want to do it anymore. Not until I understood what it was doing to my body. I said I was scared. She didn't even blink. "You don't get to say no, Allie," she said. "That's why we had you." Just like that, as if it was obvious, as if I should have known all along. I don't remember what I said back. Maybe nothing. Maybe something cruel. But I remember leaving the room, closing the bathroom door, and gagging so hard I nearly passed out. Because suddenly it all made sense. The careful way she tracked my weight, the diets before donations, the laminated medical folders with my name in small print and Emma's in bold. I wasn't a daughter. I was a donor. A walking insurance policy. That night I didn't sleep. I waited until everyone was out. My dad, working late, Emma, sedated, my mom, wine-drowsy in front of the TV, and I crept into the filing cabinet where everything lived. Every chart, every test, every signed consent form. She'd forged my signature since I was 11. I took all of it, shoved every page into a backpack. I grabbed my phone, charger, the cash I'd been hiding in a sock drawer for college road trips I'd never take, and I left. Walked right out the front door at 2 a.m. I didn't cry. Not until I was 3 blocks away and my legs gave out under a street lamp. I curled up on someone's lawn and sobbed into my backpack full of proof. My name is Allie. I was born for someone else, but now I'm living for me. The first person I called was my old track coach, Miss Valdez. Not because we were close, but because she once told me, "If you ever need out, really out, call me. I've seen things." I thought she was being dramatic at the time. Turns out she wasn't. She picked me up in her beat-up Corolla. Didn't ask questions until we got to her place. Small apartment, 1 bedroom, couch covered in clean laundry. She gave me a blanket and a bowl of cereal and just sat there while I tried to talk around the lump in my throat. When I finally told her everything, the procedures, the forged signatures, what my mom said, she just nodded. "You're not crazy," she said softly. "You're just done being used." The next day, we made copies of everything in the backpack. I hadn't even looked at most of it yet, just grabbed and ran. But as we spread it all out on her kitchen table, the horror hit me in waves. Procedure dates lined up perfectly with school breaks. Notes in my mom's handwriting. "Increase iron supplements in prep for April 17th draw." One line made me nauseous. "Allie weight, 117. Should drop to 110 for easier access." My weight, like I was livestock. There were pages labeled "Donor Compatibility Monitoring," with graphs tracking my growth, my white cell count, even my hormone levels. I wasn't just an afterthought. I was a project. And the worst part, one document buried near the bottom, a scanned PDF from some fertility clinic. Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis report. It listed several embryos. All but one were discarded. Only one matched Emma's blood type and HLA markers. Me. I wasn't an accident. I wasn't even a miracle. I was manufactured. Ms. Valdez didn't say much, just pulled out her laptop and helped me email scanned copies to myself. Backups, just in case. Then she asked, "Do you want to go to the police?" I didn't answer. I didn't know what I wanted. Revenge felt too big. Justice felt too distant. I just wanted to stop shaking. We spent the next few days laying low. I stayed off social media, turned my phone off after the first 30 texts from my mom, and the 10 that followed from Emma, all asking where I was. None asking if I was okay. Then the voicemail started. Allie, this is ridiculous. Come home. Allie, you're upsetting your sister. She's in a flare and we need to schedule another transfusion. Allie, you don't get to do this. We are a family. You owe her. Owe her. As if every cell in my body didn't already belong to Emma. As if I hadn't bled for her. Literally. Since I was old enough to tie my own shoes. On the 5th day, my mom showed up at Ms. Valdez's door. I don't know how she found me. Probably pinged my phone or stalked the school group chats. But the second I saw her on the other side of the peephole, something in me snapped. She didn't come in. Ms. Valdez stood between us. My mom screamed anyway. How dare you humiliate us like this? How dare you take those records? Do you have any idea what this is doing to Emma? She could die. I remember stepping forward, my voice quiet and hoarse. And what about me? What if I die, Mom? What if the next time something goes wrong? Do I still owe you then? She didn't answer, just stared at me like I was a problem she couldn't solve for once. That was the last time I saw her in person, but it was far from the end. Ms. Valdez helped me get a lawyer. Not some big flashy firm, just this fierce, sharp-eyed woman named Kendra who did pro bono work for minors in medical abuse cases. She didn't flinch when I told her the story. Just started scribbling notes like she'd heard worse and was already prepping for war. This isn't just unethical, Kendra said, after reviewing the documents. It might be criminal, and if not criminal, it's absolutely civilly actionable. I didn't really care about lawsuits or headlines. I just wanted them to stop calling me a monster for walking away. But the moment Kendra made one official call to request my hospital records directly from the clinic, my mom went nuclear. That night, Ms. Valdez's car was keyed. Every panel. Her porch lights shattered. Someone threw a rock through her living room window with a note taped to it. You're destroying our family. The handwriting was my mother's. She used to write me lunch notes in that same loopy cursive. Love you. Be brave for Emma. Now it was the font of threats. I wanted to curl up and disappear, but Kendra said we needed to stay ahead. So I told the whole truth about the 7 procedures, the bruises I covered in gym class, the weight tracking, the time I was so anemic after a marrow pull I fainted at school, and my mom told the nurse I was just dramatic. About the night my mom said the quiet part out loud. That's why we had you. I even confessed the part I was ashamed of, how for years I thought this was normal, that every sibling would do what I did. That saying no made me selfish. I cried halfway through. Kendra didn't blink. She handed me tissues and said, they raised you in a lie. That's not your fault. Emma posted on Instagram the next day, a picture of her in a hospital gown, smiling weakly, captioned, some people only show up when they want credit. Others bleed for you without complaint. I miss my real sister. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, all praising her courage, all bashing me. You're disgusting. Your sister's dying, and you're ghosting her? Hope you're proud of yourself. My classmates reposted it. My aunt shared it on Facebook. Even teachers started looking at me sideways. That's when the second shift happened. Emma wasn't just the patient anymore. She was the martyr. And me? I was cast as the selfish, ungrateful donor child who went rogue. But here's the thing nobody knew. Emma had always been the golden one. Even before she got sick, I was the shadow, the backup singer, the one who didn't get birthday parties because it was too hard with Emma's condition, the one who never got sleepovers or field trips or new clothes. Because every dollar, every ounce of attention went to Emma, and I accepted it because they said she was sick, and I was lucky, and lucky kids don't get to complain. But now they'd turned my silence into guilt, my escape into betrayal. They wanted me ashamed, and for a second I almost was, until I found the form. Stuffed in the back of one of the folders I hadn't read yet, a consent waiver, signed with my forged signature, for a procedure dated next month. They were planning to use me again, even after I left. That was the moment something broke clean inside me. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I was going to burn their perfect narrative to the ground. The decision came fast. If they wanted war, I'd give them one. Not with lawyers. Not yet. That felt too slow, too sanitized. I needed people to see what they'd done. I needed them to feel the same pit-of-your-stomach betrayal I'd carried since the age of 6. So I started scanning every page, every forged consent, every creepy chart with notes about my body like I was livestock at auction. I made a Google Drive folder titled The Donor Files and started uploading like a maniac. Ms. Valdez helped redact the private hospital info. She said I was playing with fire, but she didn't stop me. Then I wrote a letter, not to my mom, not to Emma, to the people who'd flooded my DMs with vomit emojis and how could you abandon your sister? Hate mail. It started like this. Hi, my name is Allie, and I was born so my sister wouldn't die. That's not a metaphor. That's not guilt. That's science. My parents used a genetic lab to screen embryos until they found a match for my sister's rare condition. I was that match. I was born with a job. I didn't sugarcoat it. I talked about the marrow procedures, the weight loss, the bruises. The time I cried and my mom said, "Pain means it's working." I included photos, scans, handwritten notes from my mom that read like livestock prep. I ended with the line, "You all think I'm heartless, but the truth is, I just got tired of being harvested." Then I hit upload. Public. No anonymity. I posted it everywhere. Reddit, Instagram, even Facebook. I sent the link to local reporters. It took 24 hours to blow up. Donor child trended on Twitter. My inbox flooded with horror, sympathy, confusion. People called it modern-day medical abuse. Some called my mom a monster. Some called Emma a manipulator. Others said I was brave. A few said I was ungrateful. I didn't respond. I just watched. The fallout came faster than I expected. My mom's real name was on the hospital forms. Someone linked her to a parent Facebook group she used to run. They flooded it. Screenshots, comment threads, furious messages. Then came the interviews. Kendra warned me not to speak until we filed suit. But one podcast host reached out with such raw honesty. His brother was a transplant recipient too. I agreed. One episode. I told my story. Voice shaking, hands curled in my lap. That's when Emma cracked. She posted a TikTok. Teary-eyed, cheeks red, whisper sobbing about how I'd ruined her life and publicly humiliated our family. Said she didn't ask to be sick. Said she never forced me to help. But buried halfway through was the line that gave her away. We needed her. It was never about what she wanted. It was about survival, not what I wanted. Not even a question of it. That clip went viral. Suddenly, sympathy started shifting. People asked why my parents never adopted, why they kept pushing procedures into my teens, why they treated me like a resource, not a daughter. And that's when the hospital stepped in, because turns out, you can't forge medical consent from a minor over multiple years and expect it to stay buried. A whistleblower leaked internal emails. I got a call from a reporter at 3 a.m. asking for comment on a potential investigation. I didn't know what to say. I was still in Ms. Valdez's apartment, shaking from adrenaline and fear and some twisted sense of relief, because the story wasn't just mine anymore. It was theirs, and they were finally losing control of it. Update 1. Okay, I did not expect this reaction. I thought maybe a few people would read it, maybe some quiet support. I was not prepared for national media, podcast interviews, or a random woman from Idaho emailing me to say she cried in her car for 30 minutes after reading my story because she was a donor sibling too. I've read hundreds of your comments, even the harsh ones, and yeah, some of them hit hard, but the ones that really got me were from people who said, "I never knew this had a name," or "You made me feel less alone." That means more than I can explain. Also, to the person who DM'd me and said, "Girl, mail your mother a box of empty syringes and a framed 'Do not resuscitate' order." I will not be doing that. But I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my cereal. Here's the part that's terrifying. My mom isn't backing down. She showed up at my old school, tried to talk to my friends. She even contacted Ms. Valdez's landlord and accused her of housing a runaway. Then she had the nerve to post a Facebook status that said, "Please pray for my unwell daughter. She's being manipulated by evil people." So yeah, that woman is spiraling. But it's fine, because I've got something she doesn't. All the records. And a plan. Revenge started small. Not the petty kind. I didn't key her car or send dead flowers to the house or anything childish. I went for something deeper, something she couldn't erase or block or lie her way around. I called the ethics board. The hospital where all my procedures had taken place, the one my mom practically lived in, had a family liaison office. A whistleblower had already leaked some internal emails, but what most people didn't know, hospitals are terrified of lawsuits tied to minors and consent violations, especially when media attention is involved. So I called the number, asked for the director of patient advocacy, and I told them everything, not as a headline, as a daughter. I described the procedures, the bruises, the iron pills, the fake signatures. I told them my mom used to make me practice smiling before appointments, so the nurses wouldn't get suspicious. That she'd once yelled at me for crying during a marrow draw because Emma could feel it through me, her words. The woman on the phone just kept saying, "My God," over and over. By the end of the week, a formal inquiry was opened. And 2 days after that, my mom called from an unknown number. "Allie," she said, voice thin with rage, "do you have any idea what you've done?" I hung up, but I wasn't done. I had one last piece to drop, the match that would burn down the narrative she worked so hard to build. I'd been holding it back, unsure if I could handle the fallout. But after the ethics board called me in for a follow-up meeting and showed me a document I hadn't seen before, an experimental authorization form, I knew what I had to do. See, there had been an 8th procedure scheduled. One I didn't remember, one I never agreed to. It was from when I was 13, general anesthesia, a test involving stem cell extraction and something labeled tissue compatibility variant trial. The ethics officer looked pale. This shouldn't have happened, she said. This wasn't approved for minors. They used me for research, and my mom signed off on it, so I published it. A second post, not as long, just one scanned form, one date, one bold, damning sentence. Patient consent not applicable due to minor status. Guardian authorization recorded. People lost it. Hashtags flew. I am not your cure. Consent matters, not your donor. But my favorite comment, some guy posted under her original Facebook martyr rant. You didn't raise a daughter, you raised a medical file. And now she's redacting you. Even the reporters turned. Emma deactivated her TikTok after someone posted a video overlaying her crying with the phrase, emotional hostage taker. Brutal? Maybe. But part of me felt like justice was finally catching up. And the cherry on top? The hospital issued a public apology. Not just to me, to any minor whose bodily autonomy was compromised under insufficient consent protocols. They didn't say her name, but I didn't need them to. The world was starting to say it for me. She broke into Ms. Valdez's apartment. Not even subtle. Window screen popped out, glass cracked at the latch. We came home from a grocery run, and there it was. My backpack dumped out on the living room floor, papers scattered. The laptop flipped open. One of the folders had a sticky note stuck to it that said, in all caps, this is family business. Stop. I sat down on the couch and felt something in my chest just give out, like the air had changed permanently. Ms. Valdez wanted to call the police right away, but I stopped her. I need to do this my way, I said. Instead, we called Kendra. She arrived in less than an hour, looked over the scene and just shook her head. This is desperation, she said, but it's also evidence. We documented everything, took photos, backed up the files again. Kendra filed an emergency protection order the next morning, but the damage wasn't just legal. She stole my journals. That was the worst part. She didn't just want to silence me. She wanted to erase me, the parts of me that existed outside of Emma, the pages where I wrote about college dreams, poems I never showed anyone, a dumb sketch I made of myself as a tree rooted in needles and tubes. Gone. And then came her counterattack. A Facebook Live. 8 full minutes of crocodile tears. Sitting in my childhood living room with framed pictures behind her like a courtroom drama backdrop. She went off about family betrayal and private medical trauma being used for fame. She said Emma's condition had worsened because of the emotional abuse I'd inflicted. Called me unstable, influenced, and finally, like the dagger she knew would land, a danger to herself and others. That night, Child Protective Services showed up at Ms. Valdez's door. I'm 17, technically still under parental authority unless legally emancipated, and my mom had filed a report claiming I was being coerced by an adult into reckless and unsafe behaviors. It was a trap. She wanted me dragged back under her roof, or at least out of Ms. Valdez's reach. But Kendra? She came through like fire. She had the printed hospital forms, the media reports, the whistleblower emails, even the postmarked apology from the ethics board. She met the CPS worker at the door with a binder and a spine of steel. She's not the one being abused, Kendra said. She's the survivor. CPS backed off, but just barely. Now we had eyes on us. Everything more fragile. I didn't sleep for 2 nights after that. Every creak in the floor made me think my mom had come back, that she'd climb in through the window again, that I'd wake up and be 12 years old again, strapped to a gurney with a cartoon nurse smiling down at me like I should be proud. And yet, part of me still broke when I saw Emma's new video. No words, just a photo montage, her in the hospital, her as a toddler, her holding a teddy bear with an IV line, and then a final shot, us, age 8 and 6, curled up on the couch, me asleep on her shoulder. The caption? She used to love me. My chest felt hollow, because the truth is, I did. I do. I loved Emma so much I bled for her. But I won't die for her. Not anymore. I didn't expect to miss her. Not my mom. God, no. But Emma. I saw that video, and it gutted me in a way nothing else had. Not because of the guilt, though that's still there, whispering in the dark, but because for 1 second, I remembered what it felt like to be her little sister. Before the needles. Before I became her personal pharmacy. She used to braid my hair. She used to tell knock-knock jokes during my transfusions to keep me from crying. We had a secret handshake. We made up dance routines to old pop songs and recorded them on our dad's flip phone. And now we're strangers screaming through hashtags. Some of y'all said, why not just go see her? Just talk it out. But you don't get it. She doesn't want a sister. She wants her donor back. And my mom? She'll never admit it, but she sees Emma's illness as her identity now. If Emma gets better or I walk away, they both lose their purpose. I didn't choose that system. I was born into it. But now, I'm choosing to leave it. Kendra filed for partial emancipation last week. I'm working on a scholarship essay. And Ms. Valdez, God bless that woman, framed one of my old sketches and hung it by her front door. It's me, roots and all. But this time, the needles are snapped. I ran into Emma at the pharmacy. Total accident. I was picking up toothpaste and a bottle of cheap shampoo, hoodie pulled tight, earbuds in, turned the corner, and there she was, sitting in one of those plastic waiting chairs. Pale, thinner than I remembered, her leg bouncing. She looked up at the same time I did, and for a second, the world just stopped. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no tears, just that awful silence where you both know too much. "Allie," she said, and her voice cracked in the middle like it didn't know how to say my name anymore. I didn't move. Couldn't. My fight-or-flight instinct was short-circuiting. I just stood there, clutching shampoo like a weapon. Then she said it. "You didn't even say goodbye." I don't know what snapped in me, but suddenly my voice was shaking and loud and way too honest. "You never asked if I was okay, Emma. Not once. I bled for you. 7 times. And when I asked to stop, Mom told me that's why I was born." She flinched. Actually flinched. I could see the pharmacist's eyes shift between us. Awkward tension hanging heavy, but I wasn't stopping. "You let her do it," I said. "You knew. You saw the bruises. You saw me pass out in the hallway and just let it happen." Her lips trembled. "I didn't want it like that. But you took it anyway," I said. "You still are." Then she whispered, "I miss you." And that broke me. Because God, I missed her too. But missing someone doesn't mean you crawl back into the cage they kept you in. I walked past her. No goodbye, no hug, no tears, but I felt her stare the whole way out of the store. When I got back to Ms. Valdez's, there was a voicemail waiting. From my mom. "You're tearing this family apart. You think you're so brave, but you're just a scared little girl hiding behind strangers. You're still ours, Allie. You'll always be ours." I threw my phone against the wall, hard enough to spiderweb the screen, hard enough to hurt, and then I sat down and wrote the last thing I ever planned to send her. It started with, "I am not yours," and ended with, "You made me into a ghost, but I came back, and this time I brought fire." The final blow came in the form of an envelope. Kendra filed the civil suit 2 days after the pharmacy run-in. Medical battery, fraud, emotional abuse of a minor. The case was airtight. We had documentation, testimony, whistleblower evidence, and a signed hospital apology. The second my mom was served, she did what manipulators always do when cornered. She went for the spotlight. She showed up at my school. It was senior awards night. Ms. Valdez had helped me submit an essay to a national trauma writing scholarship, and I'd made the finalist list. I wasn't expecting to win, just sitting quietly in the back row with a too big dress and my heart doing jumping jacks. Then I heard her voice. Clear, loud, directed at the principal. "She's not supposed to be here. She's mentally unstable and legally under investigation." The auditorium fell silent. Heads turned. I felt every pair of eyes crawl across my skin. She'd brought Emma. Emma looked mortified. Thin arms crossed, staring down at the floor. She wouldn't even look at me. The principal tried to de-escalate, but my mom wasn't backing down. "She's slandering our family for attention. She's destroying her sister's health. She's a danger." That's when I stood up. And for once in my life, I didn't shrink. I didn't apologize. I walked straight onto the stage, grabbed the mic from the podium and said, "My name is Allie. I was born to be my sister's donor. I've had 7 medical procedures before the age of 17, all without real consent. And when I said I wanted to stop, my mother told me I didn't get to say no, because that's why they had me." Dead silence. I turned to the audience. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. "Some of you know someone like me, someone who exists only in the background, someone who bleeds quietly for the family to survive. I'm done being quiet." Security escorted my mom out. Emma didn't follow her. She sat in the second row, frozen, and when they tried to usher her out too, she whispered something I'll never forget. "She's telling the truth." That was it. My mom lost everything that night. The social clout, the saintly martyr image. Even Emma started speaking to reporters, carefully, quietly, saying that maybe things weren't as perfect as they seemed. And me? I won the scholarship. I'm moving across the country next month. New name, new school, no tubes, no bruises, no stolen childhood. Before I left, I mailed one last package to their house, a single copy of the lawsuit, and a framed page from my journal, the sketch I drew of myself, a tree with needles in its roots. But this version? The roots are snapped, and the girl is walking away from the soil, free.